Hi guys, welcome. Our guest today is Professor Yu Wang from USDC. Yu has been focusing on fire safety for almost 10 years and has extensive experience in glass fire and informal settlements fires. Thank you, Yu, for accepting our invitation. I want to start our interview by asking you what attracted you or even intrigued you about this field, fire safety engineering.
Actually, I like this principle. I like this major because, in China, I think it is the same situation in Europe as well. There are a lot of job opportunities for the fire safety engineering, and it is very important for the construction industry. And also, there are a lot of consultancy opportunities. And the other things is we do not only have the good opportunity for promotion or good professional growth, but also, in these areas, we can do something very significant. That is, you can save people's life through your expertise and through your, knowledge to maybe change the world into a little better or a little safer place. So I think this is very attractive for me. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. But I have a curiosity. What inspired you to become a professor and not actually work somewhere else in the fire safety industry?
Yes. So actually, when I was in the first year of graduate study, my purpose and my vision is to become an engineer instead of a researcher, because I think in engineering you can have the outcome of your hard working in a more quick way. But for researcher, you have to wait for a long time, submit a paper and wait for the under review and maybe reject after 1 year. So yeah, I want to be an engineer first. But after 2 years later, my supervisor told me, actually, I can do research, maybe have some ability to do research. And also, even though I'm working in the university as a researcher, I still can be involved in the engineering in a lot of aspects. So, for example, in the recent year, China had a lot of big fire, and I was, as an investigator, to be involved in these big fires. I think it's also very cool because in university, your working style is more feasible. Not in engineering industry. Sometimes you have to, wake up 7 a.m. and every day. But yeah, the engineering is more flexible. So now I prefer to work in the academic. I really enjoy it, and also I'm very passionate to do something in engineering and cooperate with the fire safety engineers in industry.
But have you ever thought about working for a consultancy in the future? Because you did your PhD on glass and fire, a very niche topic, which is mostly used for facades. And I really find it important, especially because the majority of building offices have their facade made of glass. And your knowledge is useful for the built environment.
I mean, in the future, maybe in 1 day I will jump from the academic to industry, but I prefer more to you stay in university and involved in industry. I think that's more suitable for me. Yeah, and also, yeah, I work with a lot with Professor Luke Bisbee from University of Edinburgh. He is now a visiting professor in my group. So he's a very model guy. I mean, he do very well in academic, but also as well in industry. So I like that style. That's perfect. So yeah.
As Miruna mentioned earlier, that you focused your research on a very niche subject, glass fires, and usually this is not something we hear about often in the industry. And I'm curious, why is that? Why do you think this subject, analyzing how glass reacts to fire, is not very talked about in the industry?
For the glass in fire, actually, I have started this research from maybe 10 years ago when I started my PhD. Why this is important? I think the primary reason is that you cannot never predict the compartment fire in an accurate way without understanding the glass breakage and fallout. Now in industry, sometimes we just assume there's no glass or assume the ventilation never changed, but actually in the real fire, it changed a lot. So I think this is a problem that to be solved in the performance-based design. And we need to have a very accurate tool, accurate model to predict when and how and why the glass breakage and when the glass fall out. Because once it fall out, the new fresh air will enter the compartment, the burning buildings, and to accelerate the fire. Because at that time, the fire has become the ventilation control after flashover. And in other way, the glass may, and not only the flame, but also smoke may, spread through the vent created by the fallout glazing and to the other floors, to the other rooms. So that's why I think this is quite important, because the building has several structures, concrete, steel. Many people are doing the concrete steel in fire and to prevent it collapse. But from my understanding, the weakest part in the building is the glass part. And actually in the modern buildings, more and more areas is furnished by the glass facade. So I think it's quite important structure that should get more attention. Yeah.
Well, even though we are aware of its importance, you explain to us why this topic is less discussed in the industry, and not many people do research on it. And that is why I want to ask you, what do you think are your most significant research accomplishments?
You mean in the research, all the research I have done?
Which is, let's say, the one that you find the most important and the one that has a really big impact?
For me, the one part is, we raise awareness of importance of glazing in fire in recent years, especially for glass facades, because many years ago, there are not so many people are doing in these areas. But in recent years, we got the for example, Best Presentation Award or Best Paper Award in the international association and symposiums to let people know, okay, this is very important. If you check the SLP research map, you will find the glass breakage is already become a red bold word in the research map. So I think this is quite interesting, quite good for us. And the other thing is, and we also develop the in-house software to predict this. We hope in the future, it can be incorporated in the FDS so that everybody can, do much more easily with this software in industry. The other things I feel very proud of is, in University of Edinburgh, I was working in the past 3 years, between 2017 to 2020, we were doing the informal settlement fire. I think this is quite important because now there are 1 billion people are still living in the informal settlement who are subject to a very big fire risk, especially in Africa. So we went to, actually I was responsible for the experiments part. We went for the South Africa, Cape Town city to do the full-scale experiments. We built 12 dwellings with the full scale, like real homes, to burn them. And we also built more than about 13 compartments in American UL lab, fire lab, to burn them to get very important data. And also, of course, finally, we developed the fire spread model for these things and using GIS analysis. I think this is quite important because our research outcome has been written, especially my colleagues' research With me, our research has been, written in the World Bank the risk assessment report, something like that, and also in United Nations report. So I think this is I'm very proud of what we have done in these areas, because you can see that in the fire safety committee now more and more people are focusing on these areas. And actually last year I created a special issue of informal settlement fire in fire technology, and we get a lot of research papers from Australia, UK, Japan, China, Brazil, and Sweden. You can see many people are doing these areas. So that's I think this is very important, because more people are doing this, then the problems are more close to be solved.
Indeed. And since we are speaking about your work, have you ever involved your students in your research projects?
Yes. So actually, this is the second year when I come back to China to work in the State Key Laboratory of Fire Science. So for now, I have so just several days ago, about 5 more students come to my group. So now I have around 10 master and PhD students in my group. So we are the very quickly growing group. Every student is involved in my research. So actually, I think they are play the key role, more important role than me to do the research. I think I'm involved in their areas, not rather than they come involved in my areas. So I hope they can grow faster. I can learn a lot from them.
That's I think exactly what Professor Wang from his students. And please, can you tell us why would you encourage somebody to join the field you specialize in?
Sorry. Can you speak again?
Sure. I was asking, can you tell us why would you encourage somebody to join the field you specialize in?
Yeah, like what I say, doing fire research, this is very different from the other areas. The more important thing to save lives, save property, and to make people's life better and safer. So I think the more rather than the personal growth or personal promotion, the more important thing and the most important thing is to solve the problem in industry, in construction, in our cities. So that's why I really encourage everybody to involved in the important areas, which I think maybe my opinion is not right, but I think these areas are quite important. So I hope people come in and solve it together. And even though I can also some other people can solve it, I'm also very proud of that. I'm also very happy for that. So that's why I encourage more people come in.
That's wonderful. And as we are approaching the end of the interview, I have one last question for you, and that is, what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone interested in joining this field?
I think the advice I will give is, the first thing, of course, you have to work hard, no matter where you are, no matter which country you are, work hard first. And then what I think the most important thing is to please do not forget your initial motivation to involved in these areas. If you want to save people's life, do not forget that, because when you are growing up, when you are become maybe the senior engineer or principal engineer, you will think about more about promotion, more about making money than these things, solve the problem of client. But when you have to balance between the initial motivation and maybe to satisfying your client, I think make the objective safer and make the building safer, save people's life is much more important. I think just keep your passion, keep your own initial heart, follow your heart. I think that's quite important to do in these areas, especially if you make a wrong decision, it may cause big disaster, right, in these areas. So, yeah.
Well, here's the advice of the day, guys. I'm positive our listeners will consider it you. And many thanks to So many thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. We discussed two important aspects of fire research today. To understand the importance of your work and its impact into the industry for society, and in the end, to be passionate about it.